No. All right. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining for the Legal Marketing Association Southeast Florida with the local steering committee and for our virtual managing partner panel discussion. And I just want to say thank you so much for joining. I know with the storm, I hope everyone is safe and sound. And just thank you again for being able to join us and our moderator and our panelists. And so I will also want to thank Bast Amron for sponsoring our event and just thank you for everyone. My name is Josh Rosner. I am the LMASE South Florida chair. I am I'm the business development manager at Taylor English Duma. And now I'm going to introduce our moderator for today, Maylynn. She is the marketing director for Bast Amron, and I will direct it to Maylynn.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again, Josh and LMASE as a past chair. I'm excited to be able to be on this roundtable today discussion with our managing partners. Thank you to our panelists and everyone who's participating. And with that, I'm going to introduce our panelists and give a little bit about them. So I will start with Jennifer Olmedo-Rodriguez. Jennifer is the head of Buchanan Ingersoll Rooney's Miami office and a shareholder in the firm's litigation section. Her practice is focused on commercial litigation, class action defense litigation, and civil appellate litigation. Since taking over as head of the Miami office in 2018, the office has become one of Buchanan's fastest growing markets. Jennifer is a fierce advocate for promoting women and minorities within the firm and beyond. She serves as the firm's Diversity and Inclusion Council and is actively involved with organizations like the Cuban American Bar Association and the Corporate Counsel Committee of the Florida Association for Women Lawyers in Miami-Dade chapter. She has received numerous awards and recognitions both nationally and in South Florida. Her latest achievements include being named a prestigious Woman Award honoree by South Florida Business and Wealth, receiving the South Florida Legal Award presented by the South Florida Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and being named to Florida Trans Legal Elite. She has achieved an AV preeminent peer review rating from Martin-Del-Hubble and has received consistent rankings from Florida Super Lawyer and Best Lawyers in America for commercial litigation. Our next panelist is Jeffrey Bast. Jeff has been practicing in the insolvency and litigation arena for more than 25 years. He guides business clients through all types of insolvency-related issues, including bankruptcy and bankruptcy avoidance, emphasizing corporate reorganization, workouts, and liquidation. Through his experience in commercial litigation, Jeff knows his way around the courtroom, but also knows that his clients are often better served by staying out of court. Jeff represents corporate and individual debtors, shareholders, trustees, receivers, indenture trustees, and creditor committees, as well as secured and unsecured creditors in workout, reorganizations, and litigation. After law school, Jeff completed 2 bankruptcy judicial clerkships in Texas and Florida. He then practiced law in the restructuring groups of 2 international law firms, working his way up to equity partner at both firms. In 2008, Jeff left the big firm life and started his own solo practice. In 2009, he founded Bast Amron, LLP, with his partner, Brett Amron. The firm is now widely recognized as one of South Florida's top boutique firms, delivering sophisticated advice to an array of clients with complex commercial disputes. Jeff is a frequent speaker and writer, both in the US and abroad, on topics related to insolvency. Jeff has been recognized by his peers and numerous publications for professional excellence, including Chambers and Partners, Best Lawyers in America, Martin-Del-Hubble, South Florida Legal Guide, and Florida Super Lawyers. And our last panelist is Javier Lopez. Javier is a managing partner and co-chair of the complex and commercial litigation practice for Kozyak, Tropin, and Throckmorton. Javier has particular expertise in advising and representing international clients in matters brought in U.S. federal and state courts. He has represented many high-profile corporations and individuals in contract and business disputes, commercial transactions, and intellectual property matters. He has handled trials and appeals on both the state and federal levels. Javier is certified by the Supreme Court of Florida as a mediator. He frequently serves as an attorney's fee expert, as he is certified by the National Association of Legal Fees Analysis, NALFA. He has a passion for civil rights and is frequently appointed by courts to represent the interests of the less fortunate against government entities and law enforcement. Javier has been recognized by his peers by numerous publications for professional excellence, including Chambers USA for Litigation, which described him as an effective oral advocate and experienced litigator who leads an excellent team, as well as Florida super lawyers, and as a rising star by the Daily Business Review and Top 40 Under 40 by the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. He was elected to the Cuban American Bar Association Board of Directors in 2009 and served as its president in 2017. Javier was honored as a Golden Angel for his support to the Jackson Memorial Foundation through Juntos, the philanthropic foundation he co-founded. In 2005, he has been a member of the Harvard Alumni Association's interviewing committee. He is also a Miami Art Studio Advisory Board member, and most recently, Javier was appointed to co-lead counsel the economic loss and property damage track in the Champlain Towers self-collapse litigation pending the Miami-Dade State Court before the Honorable Michael Hansman. Those are our panelists for today. And with that, thank you again. And we will start with our first topic, which is ladder to the top, experience needed for the managing partner role. The question is, what roles have helped you climb into a leadership position? And we'll start with Jeff.
Thanks, Maylynn. Thank you first of all, for those lovely, lovely introductions. And thanks to LMASE for having us. I'm proud to be part of this panel, and especially with my esteemed colleagues, Jennifer and Javi. So what roles? I don't think I could point to a specific role. I guess I would say it's a combination of things. One is, first and foremost, I would say mentors and other leaders who showed confidence in me, maybe even when I had doubts about my own abilities. And there are, a number of people who served in that position over the years, some who probably don't even know that they had that type of influence on me, including one of Javi's partners, who was an influence and provided some mentorship to me early on in my stage. And then I would say, beyond those mentors, I would say perhaps a series of roles. I was always active in my firms. I was always active in recruiting. First, because I enjoyed it. It was fun, but also because I wanted to influence the shape and form of the firm that I practiced at. I cared about who was there and who would be joining, and I wanted to see the firm grow in a positive manner. And I was active in recruiting. I ultimately became the associate evaluation partner at Holland & Knight. At Hunton & Williams, I was the hiring partner. So those types of roles were helpful, but I would say, without a doubt, the best lesson for me came when I left Big Law. No disrespect to anyone at Big Law, but when I left to start my own firm, that's when I learned how to run a law firm. And it didn't occur to me even how little I knew, having practiced at 2 international firms and growing from being an associate to a partner and an equity partner, how little I knew about the business of law and running a law firm. And it wasn't really, it was kind of building the plane as we were flying for me, having to learn how to run a law firm. And now obviously I have a partner and a team or several partners and a team that helps us run this place. And the last thing I'll say is that I would encourage for any young lawyers who are thinking about leadership, and that is the act of taking on roles, volunteering for roles. And I know that at a lot of firms, administrative roles are thankless jobs. There's no additional compensation. It doesn't alleviate the expectations of, economic expectations. And so it's just more work, only complaints. Nobody's ever saying, hey, what a great job you did on setting our compensation this year, or whatever it is. But accepting roles and taking on leadership roles are the only ways to learn how to be a leader and interact with other leaders and grow from there. So I would say it's a combination of factors.
Okay.
That help
Thank you,
me.
Jeff. Jennifer, we're going to go to you.
Well, thank you again. I just wanted to thank you, Maylynn, for that wonderful introduction. And it's a pleasure being here with Javi and Jeff and just sharing a little bit of my journey. So I think similar to Jeff's experience, it was really just being involved at my law firm. I think I have a unique background in that basically I've been with my firm my entire career. I started here as a summer associate. And have risen through the ranks with the exception of just a couple of years when I was working from home before it ever became popular after my first son was born, and had the opportunity to do that with a sole practitioner doing some regulatory compliance work. But in terms of getting to this position, I will say I never planned on being in this position. It was never in my career trajectory. I never saw myself in this role. It sort of presented itself to me. And I'm just very much of an active doer. So I served on the firm's associate committee. I've been actively involved in our diversity and inclusion council. I have taken on many different roles whenever things have been asked of the Miami office. I've taken leadership roles in my cases and working with people from other offices in order to take on, administrative responsibilities and leadership responsibilities on cases, whether they were my own or cases that there was someone other than someone from the Miami office, being the relationship partner and the lead partner on that case. I think mentoring is important, establishing relationships with people throughout the firm. Importantly for me, being at a national firm, it was making sure that I had those relationships outside of the Miami office, not being parochial, so to speak, in my view of my role in the firm and who were the people that I had and established relationships with. And being very sort of forward thinking, but not intentionally. It's just it's my personality. So during my evaluations, right, as an associate and my annual performance meetings as a shareholder with the litigation section, with firm management when they visited the office, providing my thoughts on how things could be done or different ideas of things that we could do in Miami, talking about what I saw as growth opportunities for the firm, as ways to increase our visibility, our brand awareness in the market, our involvement in different voluntary and community organizations. So it was just being vocal about sharing ideas and thoughts with people that I had developed relationships with. But it certainly was not something that I saw in my career trajectory or, planned for. It just was something that kind of happened. But now in retrospect, that's probably the different roles or the different ways that my involvement at the firm contributed to being asked to sit in this position.
Great. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, Jennifer. Javi, I will move to you.
So thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here. I think that Jeff and Jennifer have kind of hit all the roles that I think a lot of us have done. In terms of getting prepared for leading a firm, an organization. I think it's kind of like the 10,000 hours by Malcolm Gladwell, right? If you get the reps, and it started way back when two of my best friends passed away, and we opened up back in 2001 a charitable foundation, me and my best friend, and it grew. And we led that. It started from a party in the backyard to raising, probably a couple $100,000 a year, leading that. Then in CABA, starting as a, running for a director and then kind of going up the ranks. And that's a really large organization. And then being president, it's kind of a 3-year, it was like a 10-year gig, but when you are president elect, you are the president. There's the pro bono foundation. There's CABA, what we call Big CABA. And so you become president of these different organizations. So it gives you that training. And one of the best things I think about CABA for me personally, it wasn't business. I don't think I've ever generated a nickel from CABA, but it's the relationships with with a bunch of lawyers, but with, I'd say, 95% of the judiciary, certainly in state court and also federal court. As president, it's amazing how many calls you get from judges for a favor, give me, I need guardian ad litem here. We have a panel coming up. That was really, really helpful. But besides the role, right? So putting aside what we've talked about, I think to get to leadership, or to be asked or have the partnership want you to be in a leadership position, I think it has to do with relation. I want to answer this question differently. I think it has to do with the relationships with your partners and the staff, the associates. That is critical, and empathy, I think, is very, very important. Because I remember we were interviewing a candidate to be a summer associate, and one of my partners, he was saying, actually, he wasn't a partner yet, and we're there interviewing this candidate, and the candidate says, well, hey, let me ask you, why Kozyak Tropin? Like, what's special about Kozyak Tropin? This and that, and he's now my partner now. He kind of leans back in a very pensive state, and he goes, I had a conversation with one of the partners here, and he said that there's 3 things, right? There's 3 things that if you can find 2 of the 3, it's a great place to work. And I was like, okay, let me listen to this. So he says the first thing is the people. You got to really enjoy the people, because that's obviously very important for obvious reasons. Number 2 is the work. Is it work that excites you? Is it work that it gets your juices going? That sort of thing, and challenging. And number 3 is the money. Let's call a spade, the money. He goes, if you can find 2 of those 3 things, that's a great place to work. And I said, I told him, well, it's Tal. It's Tal. Some of you guys know Tal. I said, Tal, and this is right in front of the candidate. I go, first, when we get out of here, I want to find out which partner of mine told you that, because I could not disagree with you more. Because if I had, I go, let me ask you, and this is funny because we're having this conversation in front of the candidate. I go, let me ask you, Tal, let's say you love the people. I mean, like, I'm like the best man at your wedding, man. Like, we are like best friends. You're wonderful. You love the work. It's incredible. We did the Surfside building collapse case. Very interesting, fascinating work. And at the end of the year, you get screwed on your compensation. Would you stay there? I don't think so. So now, that's not to say that they can all work. Let's say you can take a little bit more of maybe a haircut here if you like this part here, but it needs to be all 3 for it to be a good, healthy place to work. And we've always been very, if you look at our, the turnover, you've got staff that have been here since the firm started. It's going to be 4 years in December. We don't have almost any partner turnover unless they're going to become a judge or they retire or something like that. Deetra, I think hopefully her name's up there and she'll get confirmed. Being and viewing the business of law through that lens, being generous, being respectful, and being empathetic of your staff, of your partners, of everybody. I think that just leads, to, if you do it the right way, you'll probably get there, in terms of leadership. So it's kind of a different way to answer your question, but I think it's
Great answer. All three gave great answers. Thank you so much. That's good insight. The second topic that we are going to talk about is navigating the new normal, marketing efforts in a hybrid work environment. The question is, most firms pivoted to digital efforts due to the pandemic. How has the reemergence in the in-person events progressed at your firm? Or are you still plagued by the challenges of a hybrid office? Are you seeing a demand for hybrid events? And Jennifer, we'll start with you.
Okay, so we are still in a hybrid role for our employees firm-wide. So basically the position that the firm has taken is we are in the office 3 days a week and up to 2 days a week working from home. We have found that the pivot to the hybrid environment worked very, very well for us. We didn't really miss a beat. And our employees have been extremely appreciative of it. And so it is allowing us to remain competitive in a market right now where that is an issue. I mean, we're still in growth mode, and we're seeing a lot of candidates come to us because firms are demanding the 5-day in the office arrangement. And so that is impacting as well our marketing events. We've had situations where we have planned for in-person events, and then different circumstances have shifted it to be a hybrid event. And that is interesting because we've actually participated and hosted events where we've had some people attending virtually and some people attending in person. I don't think that's the best situation. I do think that it's one or the other. I have found with virtual events, they tend to be more widely attended. I think there's a lot of people that are excited about the return to in-person events. For example, I'm the incoming president of the 3rd District Historical Society, and we just had our biannual luncheon with the judges, and it was a great success. Different other events, CLEs, judicial fundraisers, for example, those tend to be a little bit more of a mixed bag. So I think it depends on the day, it depends on what the event is, it depends on what's going on, whether the in-person events are more attractive or the virtual events are more attractive. So I think the lesson learned from there is flexibility, listening to what your attendees are, communicating to you, and just being able to kind of go with the flow and be flexible on what the expectations are and what the format of the different events are.
Okay, thank you for that. Javi, we'll go to you next.
So in regards to, the hybrid, both in the office and events. First, it's funny because we're having associate reviews today, tomorrow, and we're talking about this issue as part of the reviews and wanting to have our associates and our staff in person as much as possible. I think that COVID had a tremendous impact, especially on young lawyers and their development. What I've noticed was that COVID, either the young lawyers kind of stayed stagnant where they were or regressed in some cases. Why? Because our business, being able to just come in and talk about a project, talk about a brief, talk about this. That is really, really important. That's where the mentoring happens. And that's, I think, one of our most important jobs as partners, as leaders in the firm, as it's not only the right thing to do, but it's also good business. So I'm encouraging our folks to come in as much as humanly possible. Right now, we are in a complete build out of our space. We're renovating, thank God, we were able to work something out with we actually did something really interesting during COVID. When people were leaving our office, we're at 25 Ponce. As a managing partner, I said, guys, I think this is an opportunity to go in and enter into a 12-year lease. And they thought, are you nuts? We're not. But anyways, we went in there and we basically got everything we asked for. So part of that's the build out. So we haven't really had that issue because half our office looks like a nuclear bomb went off. But we are telling folks that we want them back in the office. And for events, even judicial fundraisers, a lot, like kind of what I talked about earlier, the relationship is so important, not just with the client, but with our co-counsel, our opposing counsel. I've always said that the biggest compliment you can get is getting a referral from an opposing counsel. I think that you're doing something right at that point. And these fundraisers by Zoom and stuff, it's not the same. I usually, we go, if it's in person, you do your thing, the speeches, blah, 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 and then you stay after. In my case, we probably go, go to Morton, smoke a cigar, grab a scotch, do whatever, and then it turns into something else. You don't do that on Zoom. You can't do that on Zoom. So I think that, we are encouraging to come back as much as practicable. This today was supposed to be live, and we adapt, right? But I think that our business is a very hands-on business. It's a relationship business, and it's very hard to do that with let me schedule a Zoom to catch up with you, as opposed to if we're just already here. And definitely on the mentoring and the development of lawyers, it's very hard to do by Zoom.
Okay. Thank you for that. Jeff?
Yeah, I'll just add focusing, because the question, I guess, was focused on marketing. I will comment that, we're mostly in the office. I strongly prefer the office, and some people have showed us that they can work remotely. And in fact, today we are working remote because of the storm, but I came in because I just prefer working in the office. But we also just moved to new space, which is much more, welcoming and inviting and comfortable and collaborative, with plenty of, glass and open spaces. So I think, I'm encouraged that people will want to be here in the office, more so than they used to be. In terms of networking, virtual, from my experience, virtual is better attended, but there's really less room for real connection. Like Javi was saying, this is a human, business, and we grow our businesses, we network and market by making human connections, personal connections. And so, if you're attending virtual marketing events, they can be great because you can attend, right now I just joined a group that I'm attending events all over the country, which is really fantastic. It's allowing me to cast a wider net than I ordinarily would. But I know that when I attend a virtual event, I also have to put forth more of an effort. I have to reach out to people. I really use the chat. When I'm in there, I'm always chatting with people. I send LinkedIn invitations to people, and I always come away with at least one or two one-on-ones. I'm going to reach out to this person and make an effort, and we'll schedule. And even if it's by Zoom, at least one-on-one by Zoom, we can talk, we can get to know each other a little bit personally, more about their practice, and find ways to collaborate. From my view, hybrid is not much better. I mean, it definitely allows more people to attend, but without fail, you spend time talking about the technology and, where are you? I'm here, there. It's really just small talk about the fact that it's hybrid. I attended an ABA conference a couple of weeks ago, and they had these really cool little camera things on the table, which would move around based on who's speaking. That's great, but we spent more time talking about the camera than we did about anything else. And so I prefer in person. Our firm, I don't know, I'll use this opportunity as a little plug. We host an event we've been doing for the last 4 years called the Business Advantage Forum. And it's intended to just bring together community and business and legal leaders to share best practices for developing, you know, a positive workforce and in culture. And we donate, you know, our firm underwrites everything. We donate all the proceeds to a different charity. This year, we're doing it for the Lotus House. And the first 2 years we did it in person, and the next 2 years virtual. And then this year, Maylynn and I spent a lot of time talking about, should we do hybrid? And ultimately, we decided to do it in person. Everyone that's on this, you're going to get an email, and I hope you guys all come in person. It's November 10th. It's really a fantastic event, but we just felt like the technology, first of all, just it adds an additional layer of challenge, not to mention expense, but just makes things much more complicated. How you have to set up, you know, who you invite, who can speak, whether you have speakers live, and I just strongly prefer in person because, you know, as Javi was saying, this business is about making personal connections. And when I'm in a room and I see two people maybe that don't know each other, I can bring them together very easily on a Zoom chat, or when one's virtual and one's live. I can't do that. And the whole idea for this event, and really to me, any networking event, is to, you know, make connections yourself and connect other people. I love being a connector. And so, you know, one of the foundational reasons why we started that was to allow us to connect people that we think, you know, colleagues and lawyers and clients, allow them to get to meet each other and know each other and learn from each other and grow. And so just like this, I'm happy to be participating virtually, but I really wish we were in person, and maybe we'll do a follow-up in person. I just invited myself back. How do you like that?
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for the plug. And thank you, Jennifer and Javi. Great information. Our third topic is evolving legal sectors, identifying, growing, and promoting strategic practice areas. And the question is, has client demand created the need to market new specific pockets of expertise at your firm? Javi, we'll start with you.
I'm going to keep this one short on my end because we're pretty much, you know, we're a litigation boutique, and we stay in our lane. You know, I do complex commercial business litigation, right? I don't know exactly what sometimes it's not that complex. I don't know. Maybe it's because there's a lot of parties or whatever. But I'm not that bright. It's just that's the name of what the hell we call it. Business litigation. You know, people are always, you know, in times where times are tough, people are fighting over money, and when times are good, they're fighting about money more. So, you know, we have a very interesting practice or setup where we also have a really nice bankruptcy practice. So, our you know, Chuck and Harley and John had kind of the foresight 40 years ago to kind of set up a structure that in bad times, you know, the bankruptcy area kind of comes up, and in good time, you know, not good times, but, you know, the flip side, litigation. But what we've seen a lot is that there's been a lot of cross-pollination. You know, we have a case, the defendant or the person that we're suing, we beat them into oblivion and they declare bankruptcy. It's a joke. But then we just, okay, no problem. We have the capacity to do that. One area that I've seen, you know, we've really, healthcare, we've expanded a lot. That's just, I mean, healthcare has been you know, we represent providers against the insurance companies. That fight is never going to go anywhere. The provider's going to want to, you know, charges the insurance company X. The insurance company doesn't want to pay X. They want to pay less, you know, but obviously when you represent, you know, clients like Baptist or whatnot, you're talking large numbers. I have seen crypto. We're opening up, you know, Tal's leading our crypto practice, and that's really, I've seen a lot of interest. a lot of clients coming in on not necessarily yet couple litigation, but a lot on advice on how to structure these deals, because it's kind of a, you know, the new frontier. So, and lastly, you know, as a result of the Surfside building collapse case that we just finished up, we've been getting a lot of calls from developers, contractors, condo associations, stuff that we hadn't necessarily done before. But that just because of a result of that case and being, you know, leadership on that case, that has opened up a lot of doors. And by the way, that's another example of, you know, doing well and doing good aren't necessarily exclusive. You know, at the beginning of that case, Judge Hansman asked the lawyers that wanted to be on leadership in the PSC, if we'd be willing to do this pro bono, and be kind of at the mercy of the court if he was going to give us anything. And some people said no. Some lawyers dropped out, and you know, we thought it was bigger. The case was bigger than us. You know, 98 souls perished on that day. Just an awful case. But you know, I think it was the right thing to do. In the end, you know, this wasn't about fees. And sometimes you need to kind of look at the bigger picture, and that in and of itself generates business and goodwill. So, you know, you can't really be penny wise and dollar foolish.
Thank you, Javi. Jeff, we'll go to you on the next.
Yeah, I mean, I think clients are, you know, demanding more and more these days. And in fact, I did not plan to do this, but one of our panels on our forum that we're hosting is about, you know, running a business with morals. And so I think, you know, to Javi's point, the idea of morals is not only important to, you know, us as leaders, but also to our people. And I think people want to be part of businesses that want, you know, that have, you know, moral, have integrity, have morals, and support more than just, you know, the bottom line. And I think clients increasingly as well. Steering back to the question though, I think, you know, a couple of things. One, clients are demanding, first of all, they're demanding, I think, alternative fee arrangements. And I think it's, you know, that's a topic we've all talked about probably ad nauseum over the years. And, you know, I think a lot of clients are, you know, we tend to be, as litigators, especially, the only line item on a business budget that is, you know, unpredictable. And so increasingly we're moving more towards alternative fee arrangements. We do a fair amount of contingency fee work so we can align our interests with the, you know, the interests of our clients. And so I expect that to continue. I wish, you know, we could do more of it. I wish we were better at it for purposes of litigation. It's, you know, it's difficult to do in litigation, as I'm sure Jennifer and Javi, you know, would agree. In terms of practice areas, I agree, you know, with Javi, you know, cryptocurrency, cybersecurity, data privacy, those are, you know, all the sort of tech spaces are areas of increasing importance. And I think we're seeing it a lot in the insolvency arena as well. You know, two of the major crypto trading platforms, Voyager and Celsius, have filed, you know, bankruptcy in the last few months. I expect we're going to see, you know, that move in that direction. We're going to see more of that. And in fact, one of my colleagues, Jamie Leggett, in our office, is the co-chair of the UCC Article 12 Secured Digital Assets Task Force. That's a mouthful, for the Florida Bar Business Law section. And my partner, Peter Klock, is also a data privacy, you know, expert, if you will. I don't know if he would, you know, he would use that same word, but I'm using it. He's a member of the International Association of Privacy Professionals. And so those things are all born out of, you know, client needs and client demands when we have existing clients who come to us and say, hey, you know, what about this? And you help them to the extent you're able, and you refer them over to the experts. And now we've actually, over the last few years, developed some expertise, and we're continuing to invest in that, in those areas, because we see them as growth areas for the firm and for our clients.
Jennifer?
So I agree with Jeff and Javi on the areas. I would add to that financial services industry. That is something that we're seeing a lot of movement on. So our firm is organized by section rather than office. And, we have absolutely shifted towards an industry focused arrangement. And so it is intentional. And it is intended to identify lawyers in different sections who have industry-specific knowledge, regardless of whether they are corporate lawyers or tax lawyers or FDA lawyers or IP lawyers or litigators, right? The whole idea is creating these industry sectors that bring together lawyers with a particular expertise in that particular industry, regardless of what their legal specialty is. And so yes, so to answer your question, very succinctly, absolutely, there has been that shift towards an industry focus. I do also agree with Jeff and Javi. I think that the legal industry is undergoing a significant transformation now. And I believe, I'm of the opinion that I think in the next 15 to 20 years, the practice of law is going to look very differently to what it looks now. Clients are demanding things that before, I think lawyers and law firms really didn't think about, or they took certain things for granted. The clients are also asking, my clients, I serve as national counsel for an industry, for an internet-based business. And, I'm a litigator, I'm a commercial litigator. That's what I do. Well, they're asking me to weigh in on business strategy. They're asking me to weigh in on ways to improve the business. And this is something that is happening more and more. I think clients are expecting their lawyers to become very well versed in their business, very well versed in their industry, not just from the legal perspective, but from the actual practical, logistical business operations that they view from the business line. I think historically, large clients especially used to have a very strong demarcation between the business lines and the legal department. And the legal department was seen more as a cost center rather than, integral in the development of business policy and, the different business goals that the business was operating towards. They sometimes would see the legal department as, the no-sayers, right? They would go to them and, many times they would anticipate that the response was going to be, no, you can't do that. Now, I have seen at least that the business line tends to be going to the legal departments more and more often to weigh in on, business plans and what the business is doing going forward. So that's a little bit of a long-winded way of answering the question, but yes, I definitely see that client demand has impacted the way that law firms are providing legal services. And I think it's only the beginning. I think there's going to be a radical transformation in how the legal industry services their clients going forward.
Thank you. Very good information from all, and consistent. Our fourth topic is attorney engagement. And the question is, what are some of the best practices in terms of reinforcing cross-selling initiatives or encouraging attorneys to assist in creating marketable content? Jennifer, we'll start with you.
Sure. And I can kind of pick up a little bit more on what we were talking about, these industry groups, right? Because that's exactly how we are encouraging people to come together. As a head of our office, we've had a tremendous amount of growth since 2018, followed by a tremendous amount of success. And I honestly believe that that is directly attributable to the fact that in my role, I take a very hands-on approach to understanding the business relationships and the network of each and every lateral lawyer that comes into the Miami office. I then leverage my relationships internally at the firm to identify areas of growth and areas of business development based upon those networks. I make it part of my job to understand the practice area and the business opportunities presented to every one of our lawyers so that we can identify opportunities that we can handle irrespective of whether or not that particular relationship lawyer could handle that work off of their desk. So I spend a lot of time meeting with our lawyers in Miami, understanding their contacts, understanding the business of their clients, and identifying areas where we could cross-sell the services of the firm that have nothing to do with what that relationship lawyer does. I mean, I meet with my immigration lawyers, you know, they sit there and they handle work for all of these multinational corporations. Well, that's a really, really tiny portion of the legal spend for those clients. I go out, I meet with the client representatives and our immigration lawyers. I talk about, you know, what the firm does. I try to ask questions and understand what the business is doing, what they foresee their legal needs are going to be. And then we set up client teams for the different clients that are multidisciplinary and cross different geographic sections of the firm. So the fact that I've got, you know, a really strong data privacy lawyer sitting in California, you know, one of the strictest states when it comes to data privacy issues, you know, that's a tremendous valuable resource for a client, even if the particular relationship lawyer for that client in our firm, you know, presently does immigration work for them. So I think it's a very hands-on approach to understanding the background and the business and the relationships of each lawyer and rewarding that, right? I think to Javi's point earlier in response to the first question, you know, you want to incentivize people to do that. You want to incentivize people to bring opportunities to the firm that they otherwise, especially if they were at a boutique firm, were in the business or in the habit of referring that out. So you want to make it worth their while to keep it internally at the firm, being serviced by people that they trust, people they have relationships with, people that, you know, have an interest in making sure that the client's expectations are not met but exceeded.
Great answer.
Yeah.
Jeff?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I remember those days from being in a big firm, from being in big firms, this notion of cross-selling initiatives. And I always thought it was a misnomer because obviously as lawyers, we don't really, we don't do sales in the truest sense. It was, to me, kind of more like cross-pollination, like it's your job to make sure clients know that that the firm has an expertise outside of just your particular expertise. And there's nothing more frustrating as a lawyer at a big firm than hearing that an existing firm client is using another firm for an expertise that we had. I mean, I can't remember. I can recall several instances where we saw that a client filed bankruptcy and we were like, why they didn't even talk to us. And the lawyer was like, I didn't even know we had that expertise. And, that to me, I never blame that lawyer. That was on me for not making sure that every lawyer in our firm knew that we had expertise. And so this topic starts internally. It's not, there's an external component to it, obviously, but the first step is internally. I think with, Javi's firm and my firm, it's a little different because we're more, targeted in our practice areas. We're not, generalists, but for those who are at big firms, it's on you to make sure that everyone in your office and everyone in your firm knows what the heck you do And if you have a niche expertise, then you need to go take a road show and go around and visit every office of your firm before you start even talking to clients, and make sure the lawyers, because that's your best referral source. But in terms of, the small firm, I think it's, it's the same thing. It's about education and being educating people on your expertise, being a thought leader, going back to basics, staying in touch with clients, and really just asking them. It's so simple, asking them what else is going on. What else are you working on? What other problems do you have, or how's business, or how's life? Just asking questions and inquiring about what they are working on or what they're doing. And don't charge them for that, by the way. That's another, don't ask a client what else is going on and then send them a bill for that call. That is bad practice, bad taste, and short-sighted. But I think, this is an educational question. How do you educate your colleagues, and how do you educate, the external world and your clients, and find out, but educating them about you, but also you finding out about them, and knowing what they're doing, oh, I didn't even know you practiced in this city. We have an office there. Or you guys have an office there, or you have this expertise. I have someone in my firm who does that. So, yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Jeff. Javi, we'll go to you.
I think Jeff and Jennifer have hit it. Have hit the points. I think the number one reason why clients fire lawyers is lack of communication. I've read that many times, and it's very frustrating for a client to say, hey, what's the status of my case? That, in my cases, if I ever get an email like that, that's just not acceptable. We have a policy that we keep our client, we talk to them status every week, no matter how big or how small the case. If we decide to take the case, it's as important as any other case. And in that communication, it goes to Jeff's point. It's not just about the case, it's about the business. It's about the relationship. And, take the time, it's time well spent. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to lunch with a client where I think we're going to talk about X, and we end up talking about something completely different that they had no idea that we did, that I had no idea was even an issue, that was a legal issue in the company, or that a friend has, right? It might not even be them. So communication is really, really, really important. And the other thing that I think speaks, the most important thing for getting clients is results, right? Results speak for themselves. And you gotta provide results for the client. And if you do so, they will remember. They have long memories both ways. When you do provide good results and when there's bad results. And they have friends. So, and we got to start really paying attention to that in this market right now, where you're seeing it being flooded by the New York firms, the Chicago firms, the California firms that are coming in here, and trying to just take over, and it's kind of an interesting time right now, because the rates that are being charged by some of these new firms, it's like, well, what's going to happen? Is that going to make, does that make our rates look more reasonable? Does that make our rates, do we increase the rates? There's a lot going on right now. You see the Quinn Emanuels, the Sydneys, all these firms coming in. So, we need to be extra vigilant of that. One thing that I have seen, and credit to, the younger partners, Tao specifically, he's got a real following on LinkedIn, and I'm not really on that. I'm kind of a little bit more old school, but he has like a weekly posting that he does. I think it's on LinkedIn and Instagram. I'm not even sure which one it is, or Twitter or whatever. But we've been able to, he's gotten clients from that. and he's got like a following. And not only that, we've been able to hire people, law students and lawyers that follow him, and we have a company that's starting to help us with that specific area for, you know, us kind of like older folks that are not really that good at that stuff. But you know, I think going back to results is really also investing in the most important assets that we have, which is our lawyers. You know, we as a firm, for some reason the policy was we used to never hire out of law school. We didn't have a true summer associate program. It was kind of like if a judge called, you know, hey, my niece, my nephew, or whatnot, it was just kind of for a resume builder. I was like, well, and Jennifer talked about laterals. You know, what we decided to do, you know, 4 or 5 years ago, was to really do a true summer program and to kind of do it on steroids, where we make the offer, they accept, and they start their second semester, second year, as much time as they can with us while they're in school, then a full summer, and then they stay with us their third year. So by the time they start with us, they've met everybody, they're working on cases, and they hit the ground running. And also they kind of come in as, you know, like second year experience, if you will. You know, we had a first year that started, she now left to clerk for Judge Altman and then Judge Jordan. But I mean, she was taking in a $700 million case, she was, as a first year, taking expert witness depositions. She was fantastic, but you know, she had been working on this case for 2 years already.
Right.
So I think that's, you know, investing in that is very, very important, and it kind of cross sells itself as you,
Right.
the more and more you mentor.
Well, thank you for all of your answers. We're at the mark of our program, so I want to open it up for questions if anyone has any. Josh, if you could let us know if anyone has any questions so that we could answer them. And thank you again for such great insight. Josh?
Does anyone, I don't see, no, I don't see any other questions currently. Please write in the chat, or if you want, you can unmute yourself if you have any questions.
You know, while we wait for a question, the last point that we didn't get to
Yes.
was the question was, today's law firm leaders wear many hats. What balancing act efforts have propelled success, and what challenges have you learned from? And it kind of brings me back to the answer to the first question, and about treating people not only with respect, but with generosity. But also, I think, as a leader of the firm, remembering that, you know, we're not defined by what we do. And it reminds me of a story when I was a little baby lawyer over at Steele Hector. And by the way, Jeff, you're doing a great job, because, you know, Peter, your partner, Peter Cluck, my first boss was his dad, Joe. And another one of your lawyers, Lisette Carreras, and I went to law school together. So you got two superstars there. But I remember I got a call from a very, very senior partner, you know, phenomenal trial lawyer. And I wanted to be like, you know, the best trial lawyer. And he called me over and he said, you know, he called me to his office and he said, Lopez, I have a problem with you. And I was like, well, that's a problem, because that's like the boss of the bosses. And it wasn't your dad, Peter. It was another partner. And he was saying, he goes, you know, you are a B+ or A- lawyer, and you're never going to be an A+ lawyer, because you put your family, your faith, and your friends before your career, before your practice. And he proceeded to tell me that, you know, he talked about how many hours he worked, and he talked about his daughter's bat mitzvah, how much money he spent on it, and that he actually couldn't attend it because he had to prepare for a hearing. I asked him what hearing, he didn't even remember. And then he's like, you got to get your priorities straight. I asked him, am I being fired? He said, no, but get your stuff in order. And so I remember I walked out of his office, and I thought, wow, that's awesome. I go, I can be an A- lawyer and have my family, my friends, and my faith be, the priority. And, the point is that your career is always going to be a priority, but it should never be the priority. And as leaders of firms or of businesses, I think if you try and keep what's important, what's truly important, at the forefront, then success will follow. Because it can't just always be about the bottom line and how many hours and what's the rate. That you're gonna, if that's how you want to, I think, lead a firm, you're gonna set yourself up for disgruntled employees, and failure. So that was just a thought.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, great closing, Javi. And I guess I would
Yes.
add that since it looks like we're doing closing, is I agree with those sentiments entirely. And I think our approach has been that we have created a family here. Like I believe it in my bones that the people down the hall from me, this is my family, and their families are my family. And so when somebody's sick or struggling in some way, we are all there to help them, just like we are for family. And I think if you treat people that way, they will reciprocate. And there's a motto of customer first. If customers always first, that's BS. It's employees first. It's, if you treat your employees well, your people well, they will take care of the customers. And so when we have each other's backs, there's nothing we can't do. And thanks again for this.
Agreed. Yes.
Absolutely. And I think that, Jeff and Javi really hit on, points that are very, very near and dear to me, and have been pivotal in terms of the growth that we've achieved in the Miami office of my firm. I say to lawyers, and as a working mom who one time left the traditional practice of law because I had a very hard time figuring out how to balance those two roles. I didn't know how to do it all. And then you hear all of these messages. You can't have it all. You can't do it all. You're going to sacrifice different things at different times. There is not a sentiment that I disagree more with. I think, and I say to the lawyers at our office and in our firm, and particularly the younger lawyers, when I get asked, well, how do you do it all? How are you, room mom and going to, field trips and, taking sports trips and, handling these cases and running an office and doing all of these things. And, my advice to people really is, surrounding yourself with a very strong support system. And I completely agree with Jeff. That support system is internal within your firm and your organization as much as it is external with your family, and your friends and people who are going to be there to have your back. There's a very, I think, powerful metaphor that I use when we talk about the balancing act. And I say this particularly to women when I get asked to speak about women in the law and women leadership, because they tend to take on traditionally, although that's been changing, the reins of the household, right? And the child rearing and the education and keeping track of homework and everything else. I say there are a million balls in the air at any given time. The key is that some of those balls are rubber and some of those balls are glass. The trick to the balancing act is making sure you do not drop a glass ball. And what is a glass ball and what is a rubber ball is different depending on the situation. If you have a sick child, if you have a significant issue with a family member, that is going to be your glass ball. And that is the ball that cannot drop. And you're going to lean in on your firm and your colleagues to make sure that your client needs are taken care of. And at other times, it switches, and you've got something minor, something that's maybe not all that life-shattering personally happening, and that's going to be the rubber ball. And you're going to let that ball bounce, and you're going to rely upon your spouse, or your partner or your family to pick that up once it bounces as a result of you having to drop it.
I love that. Great closing. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Javi, and thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Josh, for putting this together. Great conversation and great insight and takeaways for everyone that participated.
Thank you all so
Thank
much.
you, guys.
Thank you
Okay.
so much, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining.